It started with games. Simple things. Pixels, buttons, a bit of fun. Then, somewhere along the way, the big platforms moved in. Last year, $200 billion flowed upwards, away from the people who actually play. This year, they take it back. YOM, where players play games straight from your PC, not a data center in Virginia. Meet Tyler Pemberton. Yes, this looks dramatic, but he's perfectly fine. Tyler's offline. His PC isn't. 47 players streaming from his GPU right now. Even AFK, Tyler's rig is pulling its weight. He's making money in his sleep. Maybe this is what happens when gamers finally take control of their own world. Turn your idle GPU into passive income. YOM.net. Eat, sleep, earn, repeat.
That was pretty hype. That was pretty sweet, huh? That was a fan video sent in from somebody through our Telegram, and I was like, "That is hot," and I'm gonna go ahead and include it. Again, talking about the problems that Walter, along with everybody else, is going to have when they realize that all the GPUs have been sucked up, all the VRAM, all the RAM has gone up in price, and they're priced out of the market. They can't play the games anymore. But for us in our decentralized cloud network, hey everybody, welcome to the town hall. I was out last week on vacation. I haven't taken a vacation like that in about 3 years, where I really did kind of pull away for a time and spend some time with the family at the beach, that kind of thing. But I am back, and I'm very excited. There's a lot to go over today. And a lot has happened in the time since our TG, so I want to make sure I touch on some of the important pieces. And I have a stack of questions that came through our Discord. If you're not part of the Discord, there's a channel in there just for AMA questions, so you're welcome to drop them there. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's having a good start to their summer or getting ready. Summer solstice is like 3 days away, so it's getting close to that time. For me, it means that it doesn't get dark here until like 9:30 at night where I am, latitudinally. It's such a word. At the latitude I'm at, it gets dark about 9:30 at night. It's great. I mean, I have all kinds of time out in the yard long past the time that I would normally go to bed. So that's awesome. Let me go really quick through some of the particulars I usually start off the shows with. Again, if you don't know who we are, YOM is a decentralized cloud gaming network, and it's very important that you understand the difference between centralized and decentralized. Every other cloud gaming service is currently out there available is centralized, meaning there's a massive data center that has been built that's hosting your game. And depending on how far away you are from that data center, or how much money you have to spend as if you're a developer or publisher to put your game up on data center, it's prohibitive, and it just isn't always the greatest of play times. But what we've developed is a decentralized cloud gaming network. That means people who have gaming rigs around the world can put their gaming rig up on our network when it sits idle, like when they go to bed at night. And it turns out that the average idle time for a gaming rig is about 22 hours a day. So it's a lot of time that all these GPU cycles are not being used. We allow people who have those gaming rigs to put their rig on our network, and we pay them to allow us to use their rig as part of our network to stream AAA game quality content to anybody who's trying to play somewhere else in the world. So it's a great system. We end up with sub 12 millisecond latency, which is, most of those centralized servers are struggling to get underneath 30. And then we don't have long queues or anything like that as well. We scale well with the amount of gamers who come to our system. So the whole thing is just phenomenally well designed, well thought out, and we're active now. Now the TG is out there, the payment system is active. There's so many things I'll go over in the questions, but generally what I like to do, and I'm getting up for that right now. Generally what I like to do is start up these town halls, and I do them on Wednesday night and on Fridays. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's where I'm based in the East Coast of the U.S. And then on Fridays, we do it noon, which is about 6 p.m. in Europe, where we have that's where our studio is, at the technology part of the studio. Anyways, what I usually do is I start off by showing off some pictures of Walter. So Walter is our mascot. He is a rust-colored gorilla with round blue tinted sunglasses, and generally we tell people he's a little bit overweight. This guy right here looks pretty fit and trim. And we encourage people in our community to post their own AI generated images of Walter doing things and kind of pushing the brand out there. So we kind of start the broadcast each time with some of these images as a way to kind of stall a little bit so people can find the broadcast, because not everyone can jump right into it as soon as we start. So Walter, as an aviation mechanic, get it, love it, and someday we'll all have our own private jets. This one here from Fuda. Great image. Again, I really like the idea of including some text in your image. Now, this really, to me, looks a lot like Walter. Very, very, a very good representation of our mascot. And Walter, if you don't know, his personality-wise, he's not stoic. He's more like resigned to the understanding that decentralization is going to be the way that all this technology takes us. It's better for the economy. It's better for the environment. It's better for the whole industry. So he's resigned to the fact that this is going to happen. It's just a matter of us being there. So anyways, great one. I appreciate that one. This is another, I think, really nice one. Again, very Walter-esque. Walter's glasses are round, though. That's a key important piece to get on your prompts. He's been pumping out these. Dark Soul has been pumping out these versions of Walter, and they are stout. They're really, really nice. But I've awarded top spot for him a couple of weeks in a row. I'm going to go ahead. As much as I love this one, and I really do, I think the top spot went over to this guy here. This is from Domi 12E, or you can see the name right there up on top. So again, I just love the way that we have him dressed up nice, and I think I did the same thing on Wednesday. But again, on the cover of Forbes magazine is probably where we're going to go eventually. But nice to see that we get there a little bit early from the help of people in our community. So great. Again, continue to pump out those images. We really do appreciate it. It's good to get the brand out there. Now, again, a word of caution. I said this on Wednesday night. Not every post you see, matter of fact, I would imagine a lot of the posts you see with our mascot, Walter, don't come from us. So don't fall for a scam that says, look, here's a picture of Walter, and then, migrate your tokens over here. Don't fall for any of those scams. If it doesn't come from our official Twitter account, don't buy into it. We just like people pushing our mascot out there. So one more thing I wanted to point out, Elio Trades was nice enough to throw us, he took a look and said, we're the only meaningful launch on the, I don't know if that's fair to say, but by his estimation, the only meaningful launch on Avalanche on Black Hole in the past month has been us, because again, it has been a brutal bear market right now. So that was nice of Elio to say about us. I got a couple of stories. Actually, let's touch on this real quick. So the quest, if you're part of our community and you're questing, I'll zoom in a little bit more. You'll see the top spots they're really tight. There's not a lot of XP that's separating those top three spots, even down to the top fourth. I mean, it's pretty well, it's a nice tight market, which is kind of what you want to get in on. If you're participating in our quests, or if season 2 is fully underway. Season 3 will be starting soon after. And I'm going to go over some of the questions that people have had about season 1 and season 2 here later on in the show when we get to the question section. But there's what the leaderboard is looking at right now. All right. So, as I said, I do a broadcast on Wednesday and on Fridays. And this past Wednesday, I touched a little bit on our acceptance into the Discord gaming founders circle. I'm going to do more of that here in a second. But first, I want to touch on the other thing that I spent the most of the time on Wednesday talking about, and that's the idea of data centers and the technology behind data centers. Because we've been saying again for a long time that decentralization is where all this is going to go. When you centralize, when you have to build a data center to operate either AI or in our case, gaming, you're taking a lot of resources and contracting them into one small space, which means which means a couple of things. It's expensive to build that. So when you want to expand, you've got to build another one of these data centers, which again is a huge capital expense. It requires that data centers take up a lot of energy. And it means that they're drawing energy that's otherwise available to the local population and pulling it all into the data center, or creating a massive market for more energy, meaning everyone who's in that region, their energy prices go up, right? So that's not great because they're getting priced out by the data centers who can afford those kinds of bills. And then the same thing happens with water resources, because a lot of the cooling that happens in these data centers happens from pulling water from the local table. And in the rural areas where farming requires a lot of water, and just the people, normal population that lives around these data centers, they're seeing their costs also rise. So it becomes a little unsustainable. It becomes pretty unsustainable. I don't want to say a little. Let me get over here and show you some. I'm not going to do the full broadcast because, again, if you want to see all this information, my suggestion would be to go watch Wednesday's town hall. But here is a couple of different things. So there were maps that I came across that showed the amount of data centers that are currently either already operating, under construction, or proposed to be built in these different parts of the world. And you'll see that, like here in Washington, D.C., that number, if you can't read it, 332 data centers, 180 in New York, 117 up in Chicago area. Texas is looking at 107. Way out here, where was the other one? Oh, Seattle had a massive number. It was 126 up in the Seattle, Portland area. Looking out over Europe, Western Europe had something that has like 192 over here and 197 over here. It's basically 600 just in that small area of Western Europe. And then England also was looking at 150. So the proposed amount of data centers and the disruption that's going to cause the local, and people are already in the States, especially rebelling against this idea. So we've been saying for a long time that we understand that decentralization is the way to go, and all the GPUs are sitting idle in people's homes on their gaming rigs. That's an untapped resource. If you own one of these rigs and you just let it sit idle when you go to bed at night and not earning money off of it, you're making a mistake. And there are ways, obviously, YOM being the one that we prefer, that you make money from your gaming rig while it sits idle. But we're not the only ones now saying this. Now we're realizing that, actually, I should point out this map here was actually interesting because it showed where the water restrictions, or how the droughts are being affected, and they're still popping up all these data centers, even in these areas that are riddled with drought. But again, go watch Wednesday. Anyways, we're not the only ones who are saying this now. Now you can see we're seeing support from people like AMD. AMD has announced their Ryzen AI Halo development platform. Basically, this is geared towards AI. It's not exactly what we need, but it's a unit that's basically saying you don't have to do all of your AI from a central cloud. You can do that very powerfully from just having this machine, which is this system is about $4,000. So for the cost of having another PC in your house, you can run a closed loop AI system that has its own LLMs, and you can build those yourself, your own agents and things. But you don't have to rely on the cloud to do it. It'll be faster. It can be secured if you have IP that you're trying to protect. So AMD is working on a solution that gets a lot of the power and distributes it around the world, as opposed to concentrating it inside data centers. They're not the only ones. NVIDIA doing the same thing, but on a smaller scale with their Jetson Nano super development kit. But this is kind of geared more towards extremely local, like inside of a robot, that kind of thing. This is a $250 piece of equipment, so it doesn't have the power. I think when I did the comparison between the two, the Jetson has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, whereas that Halo has 128 gigabytes of VRAM. So 128 is like a 16 times jump from what your normal gaming rig would have. So once we do get the AMDs online and we bring in the Ryzen, something like this, people in this system would be able to earn 16 times as much as you could with a normal PC by putting that rig on our network. But the most important piece of all of this is to say that the idea of decentralization, where Walter and where we think that this is inevitable, it appears that both NVIDIA and AMD are also realizing that, yes, it's going to be cheaper for them and better for them if they decentralize the compute for AI purposes. So that was Wednesday's broadcast. Again, go watch Wednesday's town hall. I think it was, I want to say it was pretty informative. There was about 2,000 views of it so far. That's pretty good. So there's a lot of information there. And it's, again, nice to have validation from some of these larger companies. Let's get into the bigger story for us anyways. And that is the update to the announcement that we got accepted into Discord has a founders gaming, a gamers founders circle that they've established in the Netherlands. So it was open to all the different AI and tech companies who are in the Netherlands who work with gaming, right? So although there was hundreds of people who applied, we were one of 5. So that's kind of great. Once again, we seem to rise to the top of these lists whenever we apply for these roles. So I'll bring up the article that Discord released. They released this press article to say that, we're introducing this this gaming founders circle, and talked about each of the companies that were brought in and explained a little bit about what it's going to mean for us. Now, Netherlands is a home for Discord in Europe, but Discord is based out of Silicon Valley there in San Francisco. This is a great way for us to enter into the Discord atmosphere, because we've said for a number of years now that part of the thing that we're helping the gaming industry get over is the acquisition, the funnel for getting more players. So games right now, when we talk to gaming studios, what they tell us is that the big thing that they're trying to address is that getting new users away from the games they currently play to play the game that they've just released is a hard slog. You've got all the friction that comes from, asking them to download and install a new game, whether they have room on their PC for it or whether they're going to leave the game that they're already playing. The loop to get a new game installed and then start playing on your system is about a 4-hour loop in most cases. So the way to, when we talk about our system and the idea that you click on a link and you're immediately playing, like that speed of onboarding is what they're all looking at. And they're trying to reach even more players than ever before. Like, yes, they can drop their link to their game and the game can live on their URL, which is a really good way to get people introduced to a demo version of the game. But probably a better place to go to get your game adopted for new users to come on board is inside of Discord. It turns out, and I'm going to go through some of these numbers, but it turns out Discord is a massive, let me bring this up. It's a massive, there are, of the Discord users, 90% of them are gamers, active gamers. So Discord's got 750 million registered users, but to say active users, monthly active users, about 260 million active users. That's a massive audience. 90% of those are gamers. So if I'm a gaming company and I want people to play my game, I want to, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If I'm a gaming company and I want to find a publisher, I put a new game out there, a place I'd like to go, it's target rich inside Discord. And they do this already. They set up their own Discord servers for most of these games. They're finding that people who are playing their game and have a Discord window or are active inside of a Discord for that game, they tend to stay into that game longer, right? You build a sense of community. This is important for most of the games. So having access to gamers, having access inside Discord is hugely valuable to game publishers. Well, when you can then embed your game inside Discord through the YOM network, basically, if you're familiar, it's really the same as putting a YouTube video, just dropping a link to a YouTube video inside the Discord. The game link is the same. Now you have even faster viral spread of the game. So Discord, so for us, we're very excited that Discord saw us amongst all those different applications and said, you know what, this is right. This is a big boon to the gaming industry. This technology will really help out both Discord and the gaming industry at the same time. So they were on board. The other important piece that shouldn't be left out of the discussion is that Discord users on average, like 53% of them are also our target market for operating an active node, right? There are 25 to 34-year-olds. They've got a gaming rig already, right? So they're the kind of people who would want to earn passive income with their rig when they're not using it. So this is, again, another big boon for us to be in the circle inside of Discord and have access to all these different services is, of course, massive for us. So that was one part of it. And because I got the question that was asked, like, what does the Discord Founder Circle actually give us? Well, obviously, it gives us access to technology and the engineers inside of Discord. That's one part of it. So now we can, when we start doing when we more fully do the integration, it works currently, but there's still some more steps we want to take and ways to make it better and faster. We have access now to the Discord engineering group, so we can talk to them and collaborate on some of these pieces that we're building. But then secondly, they've invited us to go out to San Francisco in October to meet the home office of Discord and the investors who are in that circle. So I started asking the questions like, how important is it for us to go to Silicon Valley to talk to investors? Well, the numbers are pretty massive, right? So in all of VC, and all tech VC, I should say, 28% of the capital that comes into tech from the VC group comes through Silicon Valley. So almost a third of all dollars that are flowing into the from VC into small tech companies like ourselves, it comes to the Silicon Valley. So us going into San Francisco and being shown around by Discord is pretty massive, right? It's pretty big for us. Now, not to discount Europe, 15% out of Europe, but again, just the between Silicon Valley and just being in the US, right? The other 29% coming from the US. It's a massive access to capital, which of course is always helpful to a startup. And then just regular R&D outside of VC money, 32% flows to the Silicon Valley. So having an access to that market and being able to be introduced around by Discord, obviously very, very important for us. So another, two other good things. And if you didn't see the picture already, this is the group, right? This is the founder circle, and you'll see our CEO Yorit and our CTO Ron. They attended a dinner and met all these other groups, and kind of like a kickoff of the founder circle. So pretty exciting. All right, that is what I have for the Discord. If there are questions you have, I'm watching the chat stream now. So if you have questions about the Discord or about the data centers, but really kind of happy to talk more about the Discord stuff, I will take those questions now. And in the same time, I'm going to let me stop sharing that. Now I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that we got earlier in the week from people from the community inside of our own Discord thread. Because like I said, we have our own Discord and it has questions as well. Let me do this and do that and do that. Perfect. All right. So some of the questions, and these came from I apologize. I think it was Wally sent most of these questions, right? When is the exact ship date of the Nano device, and how long after the Nanos are shipped will the contracts deploy? Well, I don't have an exact date. What we're saying is we're going to get them out before the end of this month. And every morning at our stand-up, I grill our CTO and say, we're still on track for that. What's your confidence level? And he's remained high. The last few pieces and the last bit of testing is happening this week and next. So we do expect that they're actually going to ship out before the end of this month. And as far as when do the contracts go live, we are currently paying the alpha test networks. They are getting their payouts. So that is actually happening currently. My Nano is getting paid in YOM tokens as it operates. So the contracts are already live. They're already deployed. So they basically, if you purchase a Nano and you're putting it online and you start hosting games, the payment system is a part of the registration act. So you're good to go. Then the question I was, thanks Wally for asking this one, was a TEG actually successful? Yes or no? And I guess my answer to that is it really depends on what your metric is for successful. We launched, if you guys remember, 2 Fridays ago. That was possibly the reddest day in months for the crypto market, right? Everything kind of shit the bed on that day. And we held steady, right? Which is great, it could have been a huge disaster to launch on that date. So depending on your metrics, I think more importantly for us is this opened the door to making that payment system go live, and every other piece that comes after that, that was dependent on the token being live. So yes, I think we call it successful. Again, it depends on what your metric is, but we're pretty happy. Let's see. The next few questions really talked about the community effort in season 1 and season 2, the trend from season 1 to season 2, and as a community, because there's quite a few people who feel like, really thought it was going to be more than that, or they thought uh, there's some of the comments I thought were a little bit unfair about how we set the system. But I will definitely say that moving into season 2 and going forward, we've putting a lot more focus. So you met on that Friday that we did TG. I had our new marketing manager, Glory, come on board, and he sat with us for about half an hour and discussed with everybody, what his role is and what he's looking at. One of the things he's very focused on is getting season 2 and the concurrent seasons after that to be really focused on adding value to the project. As you probably know, most of the in the early heydays of token launches and projects that we were, we kind of enjoyed watching every other project kind of rise and fall, and watch to learn lessons from all of them. There's certainly still a lot of oops, let me I'm not sure if the microphone picked that up, but our door rang, and of course my guard dog goes crazy. What was I saying? About someone in the chat remember what I was saying? I was talking about the season 2 and right. So one of Glory's big goals, right, is to make sure that the people that we that are helping to push the narrative of YOM and understand, who are out there doing the work to expand the community, are really well informed, really well connected, and put out the right message, right? Because we really are dependent on our community expanding with the right way, right? The people who have the ability to run the nanos, people who understand the difference between centralized and decentralized. If you're going to be posting for our community, and maybe I talked to the mods, pay attention to this one. I think it's probably an important thing to do. A quest where we ask our community to really talk about the difference between centralized and decentralized and why that's so important. The key aspects being it's faster, it's less expensive, it's less damaging to the environment. All these things are really important pieces. So we don't really reward people who just post good morning, right, or just repost our stuff. We're really looking for people in our community to push education of what our network does for the gaming industry and for the players the correct way. So that's what Gloria is focused on. And as far as equity between different people who are questioning, we absolutely are working on that. We check all kinds of metrics, and we watch those numbers very carefully. And yes, we're dedicated to making sure that's a very equitable system. As we said many times, we are a merit-based company, and we believe in meritocracy. So the more work you put in, the more you should be rewarded for that. And if you're just kind of phoning it in or using AI to get around the gates, we're going to ferret that out and not allow for that, because it doesn't really help us out at all. All right, some of the other questions. Are we going to Gamescom? Yes, we are going to Gamescom. What are the goals for attending Gamescom? As we've always tried to do, like walk through the publishers and developers and explain to them the difference between centralized and decentralized, why we're so important to them, the access that they get by using our system, and then just basically educating the entire industry on the power of decentralization and where that gets them. We have lots of great numbers to brag about. The 12 millisecond sub 12 millisecond latency is just phenomenal, and it does. I think you're right to say that we are the fastest network available for not just for games, but for anything, because we are so immediate. When we talk about you're operating a nano, we talk about the fundamentals of what brings value. One of the things is the power of your GPU. The other thing is your proximity to players. That proximity is valuable, and that's one of the things that the YOM token kind of encapsulates. It encapsulates your GPU power and your access to players. So anyways, part of the reason to go to Gamescom is to educate the industry on what we're building and how easy it is for them to access players when they use our system, including on Discord. Let's see. Well, he asked, why is the communication often reactive instead of proactive, and will this change going forward? But I think I disagree. Because with the question that we're reactive, not proactive, because I do these broadcasts every twice a week, and I think they're pretty proactive. I mean, there's a lot of research goes into the industry itself, both the DPIN industry and the gaming industry, that we try to make sure that we get out to their community. One of the things that I keep saying anyways, and I think that most of the team agrees, is that an educated marketplace is going to be better for us, because the more you learn about what makes for a good network and what makes for good technology, the more you understand that we're building it that way. I think, again, I have a love-hate, mostly hate relationship with the meme token environment and the shilling environment, because I got to tell you guys, I get my Telegram is inundated with shillers who are saying, "Hey, I'm a hype man. I can hype up your project." If you're one of those guys, you can just stop reaching out to me in Telegram. I just delete. I mean, we don't need hype. We need people educated, right? So the more education we get out there, and this is again a reason for that quest that kind of teaches people about centralized and decentralized and the importance of it. But a smarter population who's looking at our information is going to be both, they're going to come on board faster and in better numbers, and they're going to be better advocates for what makes for a better system. So anyways, I think that we are pretty proactive. I don't know that we're necessarily reactive. Certainly there's places for questions, and we can't cover every base, and which is why we have these town halls and open these questions up. But I appreciate the question. Thank you, Wally. What was the outcome of the meeting with the Dutch gaming ecosystem, and what concrete opportunities? Well, this is pretty much what I was just saying about our access to capital and going to Silicon Valley and showing up there, being introduced around by Discord, we expect to be very, very massive. So we're all making plans to go out there in October. And then again, access to that technology and having them and the other 4 companies that also came into that circle, being able to leverage their access through the Netherlands and their communities is also going to be part of the big things for us. So I think that I've covered. Well, I think I covered all your questions. If you're tuning in right now, you can let me know if I did or didn't. And again, I've got time for more questions if there are any. I don't see any more looking at the chat, but we've got 100 people watching on X, and by the time this is all said and done, I'm sure it's going to be more people. We generally get a pretty good audience on X, more so on X than we do on YouTube, which was surprising to me. I'm a YouTube guy myself, but good to have a lot of people listening on X. And I don't mean to discount LinkedIn. We also push this on LinkedIn as well. Okay, if there are no other questions, this ends up being a shorter broadcast than I thought it would be. I actually thought this was going to go kind of long. I'm hoping to get a guest in again next week. Sometimes this is dependent on those guests, their availability. It was tough for me to set one up this week just because I was on vacation all last week, and it takes about 2 weeks to get the whole train rolling to say to somebody, can you come on board and join us for a conversation? But we do expect that we'll get some guests next week. Usually we do the guests on Friday, and Wednesday I just go into more industry news and education about that. I think I covered it all. Whew. Good to be back again. So I'll just sign off for the same way I always do. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. Drink lots of water. Go out and touch grass. Tell someone you love them. And we will talk again next week. Again, spread the word. Mods, let's get one of those quests up that talks about educating people on centralized and decentralized. But we will talk again next Wednesday. Please drop in your questions inside the Discord. Oh, I didn't mention the rig check. I should totally do that before I leave. So again, if you're listening for the first time, or if you've been listening for a while and haven't done it yet, and you're curious about how much passive income you could be earning from your gaming rig, if you go to app.yom.net/rigcheck, we've created an app there. So before you make any purchase at all, you can check to see how much your rig will estimate, how much your rig could possibly earn, enter in some values and run the test. And that'll give you your starting point to becoming a nano operator. It really is the best way to do it, so that you're not purchasing something that you can't use later on, and we're not selling you something that we feel like it's going to return on us anyways. So app.yom.net/rigcheck. Be sure to check that out. And I think I covered it all. All right. Thanks, everybody, again for tuning in. We will be back next Wednesday. Have a good weekend, and we will see you soon. Cheers.